Welcome to this week's Future Toolbox podcast. We explore the Z to A of life skills, where each letter stands for a topic and essential tool to help you get ahead in life. Meet Jules and Mark, creators of the multi-award-winning Future Toolbox, and enjoy their straightforward approach to creating growth mindsets that help people turn their dreams into realities. Whether you're a teen in education, a parent, a teacher, or part of a community group, start creating positive habits from today.
Hello and welcome to our latest Z to A podcast with me, Jules, and Mark from the multi-award winning Future Toolbox.
Hello everybody and welcome back.
Now this is where we pick a letter from the Z to A alphabet and choose a topic to discuss how you can use our tools to improve your own personal development and life. And this is the exciting part at the beginning where we let you know what letter and topic we've chosen.
Here we go. Drum roll. We're revealing the letter this week, which is O for overwhelm. So we're going to look at what overwhelm is and some tools and tips on how to avoid being overwhelmed.
Yes. Now, if we look at life itself, it's often like a juggling act. You're trying to balance out so many things in your day-to-day life. You've got all your commitments, you've got your responsibilities, you've got your to-do list, you've got all sorts of things that come rolling into that day. And it's no surprise that feeling overwhelmed is something that touches near enough everybody.
Yeah, if you don't get touched by this, I don't think you're very human, are you? Joking aside, if you're overwhelmed and you get to that tipping point, this can have a real effect on you, not only mentally, but also emotionally, physically. It can make you feel stuck. You could have the inability to feel like you're going to move forward. You could also feel very hopeless at times.
Yes, it's not a very good experience. I think it's really important to point out that overwhelm is a natural response to the high demands that are placed on us, even more so now than 20 years ago, for example. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, I think it's key that you know that it's not a reflection of your capabilities or strengths. It's just that you've got an awful lot on and it sometimes feels too much.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And it can also affect your performance as well. So if you're a particularly skilled person in a particular area and you're overwhelmed, it's going to affect your ability to continue that skill. So that is, again, going back to the thing, you might start feeling, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm not very good anymore. And then that inability to move forward and that feeling of uselessness and hopelessness comes back in. You maybe feel like you've lost your mojo a little bit.
And we come across a really lovely analogy of what it means to feel overwhelmed. So imagine we're sitting here recording this and I've got a lovely glass of really cold water, which I'm enjoying. So it's a little bit like having a cup or a glass that's filled to the brim with water. Then every task, every worry, every challenge, everything that you've got to do, everything that's going through your mind and anything that you're facing is like an extra drop of water that gets added to that glass. And then when there's too much water, what happens? It overflows. And the overflow is what we experience as overwhelm. And it's almost like there's too much stress, there's too much water in that glass.
The glass is going to get overwhelmed or overfilled. But yeah, that's how our life is. Our mind can be too full with information and then all of a sudden it's going to spill over, and it's going to spill over into all those effects that we just talked about, emotionally, physically, mentally, everything like that. Yeah. It's just going to be really, really difficult to move forward. And of course, you can't put any more water into that glass because there's no room.
There's no room for it. So things like simple decisions, they become difficult because you can't think straight. Even your everyday tasks like making the tea or deciding even what to have for tea or dinner can actually feel impossible.
And then this can be impactful on our relationships, on our health, our performance at work. As we mentioned earlier, our performance in the skills, the things that we're good at. If you're a student studying for your exams and you've got too much stuff to do and too much stuff to learn, then that's where performance in exams can get seriously affected. And of course, over all the years we've been working with teenagers, we've seen this. We've seen absolutely brilliant students that just fall apart at exam time. Why do they fall apart? Because all of a sudden they've got 12, 14, 16 exams. They've got loads of stuff to do that week. Last minute revision, stress. And all of a sudden that cup is just overflowing and there's nowhere else for it to go. It can also make us feel irritable and sometimes withdrawn.
Yeah, it does, because it's your body signal telling us that we need to slow down and take care of ourselves. And being able to acknowledge that you're feeling overwhelmed is key to being able to do things to overcome overwhelm.
Yeah.
That was hard to say.
Lots of overs in there, overflowing, overwhelming.
Yeah, but I said it earlier, understanding that feeling overwhelmed is a response to having too much stress. It's not a sign of personal failure, because that will creep into your mind thinking, well, everybody else is coping, why can't I? But it isn't. It's just at that moment in your life when you're feeling overwhelmed, you've just got so much going on. It's not that you've failed, it's just that you have got an awful lot on.
So the way forward really is to acknowledge how we're feeling when we're overwhelmed, and then look at ways to reduce our stress and find the balance again. So let's look and explore, what are the signs of overwhelm? How do we know that we're overwhelmed? What do we need to look for?
Well, I think, first of all, you have racing thoughts and difficulty concentrating. So your brain's going at 90 miles an hour because it's trying to think of all the things that you've got to do. So it's racing and you're thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to be there. Or what time am I going to do this? What about this? What about that? And then you try and do something, but you can't focus on it. I think that's one of the first signs that you're becoming overwhelmed.
That's reminding me of somebody who chairs some meetings that we attend. And I noticed this guy, when we're online talking on these meetings, the thing he does all the time is he rubs the middle of his nose where your glasses would sit. And he almost closes his eyes really, really tightly. And you can see his brain is absolutely pushing to think of an answer at that particular moment. And that is a good way of picking up that he's probably got so much stuff that's racing through his mind at that moment that he can't just go, right, bang, there's the answer. Yeah. It's something else that's going in there, and it's something that we've picked up. And he has admitted he's got too much stuff to do.
Yeah, and this could lead to feelings of being confused or even forgetful. You're confused because you're not sure what's the priority, perhaps, or what it is that you should be doing. And then because you've got so many things on, you end up forgetting some of them.
Yeah, that's a classic sign, I think. And the more stuff you take on, perhaps sometimes less organised it can make you feel as well, because if you're rushing around and you've got a million things to do, trying to remember to write down and plan things is quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. There's also physical symptoms of being overwhelmed. For example, your heart will race because you're kind of almost in that panic state. So your heart beats faster. You may become a little bit breathless. You might have headaches or stomach aches. So, it manifests in different ways.
Yeah, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, things like that as well. And I remember years ago, I used to suffer with really, really bad stomach cramps. And I went to the doctors because I just couldn't work out why this would wipe me out for some days. And the doctor said to me, it's because you're stressed. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm the most laid-back person on the planet. And he said, well, it's because you're doing so much stuff that your brain is struggling to cope, and that is just affecting your body's ability to digest food. And I was like, oh, okay, right. I'd never thought of that before, because at that point, I didn't sit there and think, well, I'm stressed because I've got all this stuff on. Life was really great, but I just realised I was doing a lot of stuff. And I think that still applies to us quite a bit now, doesn't it? We still love doing loads and loads of things, but it can sometimes lead to these physical symptoms.
Another thing that it affects is your sleep. You could have difficulty actually falling asleep, because quite often that's the time when you lay down and you want to be really calm and empty your mind, and all it does is start reminding you of all the things you haven't done or you've got to do. Yeah, it can affect your sleep, either getting off to sleep, staying asleep, waking up still feeling tired, or waking up early hours in the morning.
Yeah, even dreaming about the things that you're supposed to be doing.
Do you know, one of the dreams that I have when I'm feeling overwhelmed and we've got a lot on, you have those dreams where you're trying to achieve something, and it could be something simple, like you just want to go to the shops to buy, I don't know, a box of tea bags, just for example. But every time you try and do it, something comes in your way and stops you going there. And it's a very frustrating dream.
Yeah, I've had many of those as well. It does affect your ability to sleep, and also your energy levels are going to be reduced as well. It can also lead to just being constantly worried and stressed about minor things, really, even things that are unrelated to it. So if you're a student that's really stressed, say, about your exam process at this time of year, you could be worrying about something that's completely trivial, that's nothing to do with the exams, and that can creep in, and you're, as you say, you're worrying about how you're going to get to the shop in your dream.
But that's how it's a clue to your, clearly you've got a lot going on and you're trying to do something and you can't get there, and it causes you to lose that sleep, which then makes you irritable, gives you the anxiety, and you actually stop doing activities that you would normally enjoy. So now that we've depressed you all in terms of
Yes.
what the signs of overwhelm are. Now, we've gone through all sorts of different things and you won't have all of them, but it's just good to understand and recognise when you're having certain feelings, to think to yourself, right, I think this is because I'm just overwhelmed. My glass is full and there's water coming out of it. So we need to reduce that. And there's no end of things that cause you to feel overwhelmed. And we've talked about often it's because you've got too many responsibilities. Now, whether that's at work or at your home life, even in your social lives, in your schoolwork, all of that can just contribute to making you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, and you could be one of those people that loves doing things and loves saying yes to everything. And we've been that person before many times, haven't we? Where somebody goes, Jules, you're really good at this. Could you help me out with this? Jules, you're really good at that task. Could you do that? Could you take that on? Replace Jules with Mark as well. I've had that conversation thrown to me so many times. And because you're a good person, you want to do it and you want to help people out. Learning to say no is really key, isn't it? Because if you can say, look, I'm too busy to do that at the moment. If you need a hand with it, you can ask me a question, but I'm not going to be able to take the whole task on. So you can still give something to that, or you can just say a big, blunt, flat no.
Yeah.
Now, that person might be a little bit, I can't believe you're not helping me, but you have to look after yourself at times, don't you?
Absolutely. And I remember there used to be a saying that if you want something doing, ask a busy person. I understand that. And I used to have a lot of people say that to me, oh, if we give it to you, Jules, we know that you'll do it, which is a great positive thing to make you feel good about yourself. But when you've got a lot of things to do, adding some more stuff in there does make you feel a bit stressed. So the next time you think to yourself, oh, actually, I'm going to pass this on to somebody else because they're really busy and they're good at getting stuff done, just make sure that they've got that time in their schedule to be able to do it before you ask them to do it.
Yeah, it can work both ways, can't it? Other things that can cause overwhelm is anything to do with a major change in life. It could be moving home. It could be starting a new job. It could be starting a new education, a new training program. It could be anything, a new relationship maybe. It could be having a family, starting a family, or adding to your family and making your family bigger. All of these things are major, major life events, taking on a financial responsibility. Sometimes we forget about these things and we make a decision and we'll buy something. Let's go and get a new car, a new mobile phone or whatever. And it's nice and shiny new, but then we have to make the payments on it. And that can overwhelm us in certain ways as well. So it isn't always about tasks. It can be about other pressures.
Yeah, and those high expectations that we've talked about, and particularly at the moment, if you're going through exams or the exams process is in full swing and you've got lots to think about, often you get pressured by people's expectations of the grades and things that you're going to get, and that can cause real stress. But that doesn't just happen when it's in school. It can be within your work or personal standards, that the expectations put upon you are so high that you almost feel it's too much.
Yeah, that is very true. And also, we talk loads in our podcast about the expectations on social media and the pictures that are painted on that. We've talked about the Instagram and TikTok profiles, creating the so-called perfection of what you need to look like. But there's also the negative news feeds, and things like that can lead to overwhelm. And if you're filling your mind with negativity all the time, then that is, of course, going to lead to stress. So how do we get away from overwhelm? How do we release some of this? How do we empty some of our glass?
Well, the first thing I think to do is, if you're feeling all those signs that we mentioned, is to literally recognise it and stop. Just stop. I mean, obviously, if you're driving, you can't just slam the brakes on.
That's not a good idea. No, don't do that.
But if you can, just stop what you're doing and think, right, okay, this is too much at the moment. Take some deep, slow breaths and just try and calm yourself.
Yeah, that's a good starting point, ironically, is to stop, isn't it? Because if you can stop, then you can look at the next step to move forward. Now, it might be that you want to talk to somebody within your family or within your circle, or somebody at work or somebody at school, and just say, look, I can't do this at the moment. I'm really, really struggling. So can I talk to you about how we can find a way forward with this? And it is difficult to do. It's really, really difficult to sometimes say, I can't do this, or I am struggling. Once you make that first decision to stop and think, right, this isn't working, it gives you a moment of clarity to make that plan to move forward.
Yeah, talking about how you're feeling really does help release some of that stress and that pressure, rather than having those feelings bottled up and filling your glass up quicker than it needs to be. Sharing how you're feeling with somebody can really help release some of that stress that you're feeling.
And a good tip to really follow on from that one is to be kind to yourself at that moment, because it is really, really easy. We mentioned right at the start of this podcast that you could sit there and beat yourself up and say, I'm not good at this anymore, I can't do this anymore, oh, I've got to give in, I'm going to quit. But don't beat yourself up. Just be really kind and gentle with yourself and think, right, go me for recognising this in the first place, and celebrate the fact that you've recognised that, because that then helps you to move forward, and you can look at ways to then start maybe relaxing yourself. Maybe mindfulness or meditation is a good way forward.
It is. Remind yourself that, as we said, it's okay to feel this way. Whatever's going on, you've got a lot going on. And treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you'd offer a good friend, and talk to yourself the same way. Don't tell yourself that you're rubbish. Be good to yourself. And as you just said, find some nice, simple mindfulness or meditation exercises to help almost sort of like bring your focus back to the present, and it will help you to reduce those feelings of overwhelm. And like we said, just stop and just breathe and just try and let those feelings dissipate and go away.
And we've got a whole podcast episode on how to meditate, how to practice mindfulness, so you can go back and find that one there and have a listen in. But here's a really good tip, is to make a list of things to say no to. So we mentioned earlier about saying no to people and saying, I can't do this anymore. If you can look at the list of stuff that you have on your plate at the moment, or in your glass, as we said earlier, and write it down and think, are they all things I need to do? A classic one we've always had with students in school who say, I can't revise because I don't have time. Always start with how much time do you spend on your phone or on social media? How much time do you spend on exercises that don't add any value to your life? It's exactly the same with us adults as well. There's times where we'll say we're far too busy, but we know we waste time on so many exercises that have such a negative impact on us, and they don't add anything to our output at the end of the day. So once you've got that list, you've gone through that list of things, you might think, okay, I spend too much time doing this and that's a waste of time. But there could be other things that you look at and think, actually, I'm good at that task, but I know somebody who's better, or I know somebody else who could do that task with me or for me. So if it's in a work environment, there might be somebody who could take that on and would love to take that task on. Likewise, if you're in a home environment, there might be somebody who can just do a simple job or a simple thing around the house, and that will take the pressure off. Give stuff to your kids to do.
Give them the housework.
Yeah, give them the
They
housework to do. They do, yeah, absolutely. But delegating task is just offloading maybe a few of those things. And sometimes as well, we get precious, don't we? And think, oh, I've got to do that because I'm the best.
Yeah, that's true. And we talked about earlier about a good thing to do is to talk to somebody. If you're feeling that you haven't got somebody that you can talk to right that moment, journal what you're thinking. Writing it down is another way of thinking about things that is going on in your mind, and what you're feeling can help you to organise those thoughts and those feelings. So journaling is just fantastic. If you haven't got anybody at that moment that you could ring or message or whatever, always have a little journal or a notebook or something, and what you're going through, write it down, because that will help you try to make sense and almost clear that fog a little bit.
Going right back to the start of this tips of how to stop overwhelm is just take that word stop and think, what is it that's causing me this stress? And as we say, make that list of all those things. There could be one thing in that chain that's causing this issue. It might be that you're weak at planning things and you just try and do everything in one go. And if you made a to-do list, that could make it easier. It might be that you're trying to take on a task that's too big and you could just break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks. There could be one little thing in the chain that's causing a big ripple effect. And if you stop and look at what it is, it could make that process easier. Planning, procrastination, we've done, again, podcasts on these things before. If you can get into the habit of planning simple daily habits or taking those little bite-sized chunks of that task, then all of a sudden you might find that life's a little bit easier.
Absolutely. If you are going through a very, very busy time, which a lot of students are at the moment, a really good thing to do is to create a routine. So plan your day, your week, your weekend, and plan it to put in the time that you need for certain things. And if you do that properly, you'll actually find that you'll have more time to have downtime, where you can let your body relax and you can go and do something that you really enjoy, like going and watching a movie or something, or going for a walk. But yeah, get yourself a good routine. That works wonders because it clears that panic of, how am I going to do this? Because you've planned your time.
So we're going to get you to stop right now and head over to our website, which is futuretoolbox.co.uk. On there you can find loads of tools and tips. Also visit the shop because we actually have a self-care journal on there and a free downloadable self-care tracker. And these are going to be really, really useful in your quest to move forward away from overwhelm. We have loads of tips on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. We're also on YouTube, and you can connect with us on LinkedIn because we're
everywhere.
We are indeed. Without overwhelming ourselves, we are everywhere. So look at ways to keep that calm in your life, and we look forward to joining you in the next episode.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us for the Z2A of Life Skills with Jules and Mark of the Future Toolbox. Don't forget to head over to their website, which is futuretoolbox.co.uk, where you can find lots of free resources, plus a host of books in the store, as well as subscribing to the membership site. Follow Future Toolbox Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Future Toolbox, and subscribe to their YouTube channel too.